I've been at it for 71 years, and I've produced and documented over 10,800 pieces of art. So I've been busy. I thought that I really wanted to be Norman Rockwell, and my guidance counselor here in Belfast at the time suggested I go to Rhode Island School of Design and arranged for me to visit. So once I saw the place, I said, I gotta go here. So I did go to RISD, and I guess what I got out of it was not only to learn the history of art and all the different things that have been done over the years, but I fell in love with the abstract expressionists, particularly Willem de Kooning, which would be pretty far away from Norman Rockwell. But I never have gotten over de Kooning. I actually went to RISD to be an industrial designer because my guidance counselor said, you can combine your math and science skills with art. I had no idea what that was, but I went to RISD with that idea. And my freshman year, I got to work on the end of the year exhibit with industrial designers. And it was great for me because I thought, I don't know what the hell these guys are talking about, but I don't care. So that told me, no, you really want to be an illustrator. So the second year, I went into illustration. And by the end of that, I was looking at the painters over there who were all like Neanderthals, the way they dressed, the way they worked, and what they were doing. I thought, what in hell are these people doing? I want to find out what they know that I don't know. That was a big change. And then I felt like I was back in the first grade again, learning art all over by myself, and just having a wonderful time. 3 weeks back in Belfast when I got a draft notice in the early 60s. And so I ended up at Fort Meade, Maryland, halfway between Baltimore and Washington. And I was doing recruiting posters, silkscreen posters, and pamphlets and TV slides and things like that for 2 years as an Army individual and 2 years as a civilian afterwards. So I was actually an illustrator for about 4 years of my career, and then took a job in Washington and had a 26-year federal career, mostly in public affairs. But I was always doing art and teaching art on the side. And once I built a house, I had to do portraits to make my house payments. When I was a kid, I did hundreds of drawings of movie stars, historical figures, friends and relatives, and people I just made up. I just made up faces. So I had tons of drawings of faces. And then when I took figure drawing at RISD, I really, really liked it and have always stayed with it. And everywhere I've been, I've looked for a figure drawing group. And those 100 sketchbooks I showed you downstairs, they're full of figures, mostly. So that ends up being in my work, even though I consider what I do now total improvisation. Figurative stuff keeps coming up and faces keep showing up. And sometimes they have a meaning for me. And sometimes, I just go with the flow and let them be what they want to be, which is why my work varies quite often between non-representational and somewhat narrative. And I let it be what it wants to be. I don't try to make a judgment because sometimes I find that trying to use a rational mind to decide what's good or not good is going to get in the way of something new, something creative, which I wouldn't have considered otherwise. That's why I like improvisation, because accidents happen I didn't plan on and I didn't think about. So new shapes, new colors, new relationships come up. And that's the most exciting to me. In fact, my former RISD professor, Robert Hamilton, who was also a great influence on my work, said that the most important thing about his work that kept him going was surprise. If I don't have a surprise every day, I've had a bad day. And it's like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm thinking, my God, all of us want to be creative, but you can't be creative if you're afraid of surprise. Right? That's what artists live for. One of my friends said at the same time, just take a blank piece of paper or a blank canvas and start painting. Take all this stuff down off the wall so it won't influence you, and just start painting. And I did one in about 20 minutes, and I threw it on the floor, and I pulled out another piece and did another one, and I did a bunch of them. I did about 50 in a couple of weeks. And then I decided, hey, these are pretty good. I like what happens there. And I would take them and paint over them the next day and not be afraid of anything that was of value, and not put any kind of thought to, even though I'd been exhibiting, I took my stuff out of the galleries. I didn't think about exhibiting. I didn't have to drag paintings around and, frame stuff. I was just painting. And I felt like a kid again back here in Belfast. And so it was so much fun, and it showed in the work. So I did some of those, and I did, in a few weeks, I was doing 4 or 5 a day. And again, I might paint over them. I didn't mind painting over them because it didn't mean anything to me. And it was great fun. I loved to paint over stuff. Some of that stuff survived and some of it didn't. But I found that within about a year, I had a few hundred pieces of this stuff. After all these years and all these experiences, I just sort of exploded with what was kind of brewing inside. I love jazz, particularly early jazz, and that element of surprise, of improvising, not doing anything that is rote or is expected. And so that work inspires me to do that kind of thing, and that's why I like it. I have a painting that took me 18 years to finish, and I had it in a gallery in Philadelphia, showing. I moved to outside Charlotte. I had it in a gallery down there in a different iteration. I came back here. I had it in a gallery in Washington in the third version, very different. And eventually I took a photo of it on the computer and made 4 or 5 different iterations on the computer in Photoshop. Didn't like any of them and said, no, that's not going anywhere. And then started painting on it again and finally got it boiled down to a very simple, far less complex painting, totally different painting, and showed it again down in Booth Bay Harbor a couple of years ago. So that was 18 years later. It's tough enough as it is to get art into galleries and to get people to notice or to get some kind of publicity. So oftentimes, I say to my friends who send me a compliment, God, this is great, because this is about the only reward you get for doing this stuff, is your peers that you respect tell you you're doing something that means something. This is important, or you've hit on something. So I think that's important. And if you happen to latch on to friends who themselves are obviously respected and competent and established, then those people, aside from what they can do in terms of helping you get noticed, those people can really give you truthful and valuable feedback, I think. So I think the most valuable thing, whether it be family, friends, or peers, is for people to encourage you to follow your passion. I don't care what the discipline is. I think the most valuable thing you can do, if you can do it, is to follow your passion. Find a way to follow your passion, no matter whatever else you have to do, because that's getting you close to offering the gift to the world, which is the most unique and the most important gift you can offer. Nobody else can offer that gift. If it may take a lifetime to realize that and believe it, but if you can realize it early and have faith and have people supporting you in that idea, then I think you're going to do good stuff, because only you can do it and it's meaningful. Try to figure out why you're doing it, and try to figure out what really, really makes you happy, makes you whole, makes you alive and feeling like you're growing. You know, sometimes I pull out something was 10 years old and I think, wow, this is great. I was better then than I am now, right? But then I look at my stuff and say, no, you know, I'm figuring out some things. You know, I've been at it 70 years. I should know something by now. You know, I wish I knew more. But I think the wisdom might be, the more you know, the more you realize what you don't know. Huh. Yeah.